yesterday.
Is anyone on Capitol Hill worried about tariffs? Anyone with an R in front of their name, Ryan?
Well, good thing you clarified that, because there's a whole bunch of members of Congress that are really worried about tariffs, and most of them are Democrats. But I do think that there are some Republicans that are raising tepid concern about the way that the president is going about this. They're always reluctant to actually directly criticize him, but there are worries about the form and fashion that this is playing itself out. Now, they're willing to give Donald Trump some latitude here. Many of the Republicans that you talk to, when you ask them about this tariff proposal, they're not necessarily a fan of tariffs themselves, but they are a fan of Donald Trump as a deal maker, and they believe that this is a tool in his toolbox to try and cut deals with Canada, with Mexico, with China and beyond. And so they're giving him some space there. How long that space exists for remains to be seen. And it also is really a test of Donald Trump's broader political will. And where you're really going to start to see Republicans start to speak out is when they're hearing it from their constituents. And Trump has, to a certain degree, conditioned his supporters to say, listen, you're going to feel some pain. It's going to be OK. We're going to get over it. So will there be an outcry, particularly in these red districts right at the beginning, even if folks are paying more because they feel confident that Trump can get them out of it? Or is this going to be something that as soon as they go to the liquor store, as soon as they go to the gas station, as soon as they go to get the oil change and they see that price bump, that they start to get upset about it and then blame Donald Trump for it? That right now is still an open question, Katie, that may take some time to answer.
Even know about it? Because we've heard that Republicans are being told not to hold town halls when they go back home.
Yeah, well, town halls aren't the only way they hear from their constituents, right? Their phone lines could be burning up with calls from their constituents. They could get emails. There is a wide range of ways for them to communicate with their constituents, even if they're not specifically doing town halls. The one thing I've learned covering politics for a long time is that when a constituent group wants to get a message to a lawmaker, there are ways to get that message to those lawmakers. The question is, will these Republicans receive it? We've seen in many instances them downplay the impacts of these town halls, saying that they're just paid troublemakers, as Donald Trump called them, that they're outside Democratic activists that aren't part of their district, and they're really not listening to what their constituents are saying. When their constituents are complaining about tariffs, will they treat that complaint the same way that they're treating these town halls? That's something that we need to keep an eye on, Kate.
I guess they'll ultimately find out whether they get elected again at the end of the day, at the end of this 2 years. Peter Baker, the question that I still have is, what exactly does Donald Trump want? Say he's using these tariffs as a leverage tool and that he really wants to get a better deal from Canada, from Mexico. What is a better deal? He's talking about fentanyl. We send more fentanyl to Canada than they send to us. It's like 1%. It's almost nothing. It's not nothing, but it is almost nothing. Justin Trudeau seems to think that what Donald Trump is doing with these tariffs is he's trying to hollow out the Canadian economy to make it easier to absorb Canada into America as the 51st state.
Well, look, you're absolutely right to ask the question, because the president's been all over the map when he describes what he's trying to do with these tariffs. You're right. He talks about fentanyl, but you're right also that less than 1% comes from Canada. That can't obviously be worth all the economic disruption that he's about to impose through these tariffs. He talks about trade imbalances. He talks about unfair trade practices with these trading partners. But remember, the rules that we currently have for trading with Mexico and Canada were set by an agreement negotiated by Donald Trump in his first term. He's the one who told us that the USMCA, the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement that he negotiated, was a great deal. So now he's telling us that it's not a great deal, even though he's not taking blame for that, and saying that he needs to make changes through these tariffs. Or is it like what Trudeau says? Now, does Donald Trump really think he's going to annex or somehow absorb Canada? It's hard to say for sure. It seems pretty farcical, but I suppose it shouldn't be taken lightly. Certainly Trudeau's not taking it lightly. So the Canadians aren't taking it lightly. And it's actually affecting their politics right now in a big way.
Yeah, we're seeing what is just uncharacteristic animosity from the Canadians toward Americans. You had one mayor, I think it was of Manitoba, saying that they're going to take all American liquor off the shelf. You're hearing the national anthem booed at hockey games. You're seeing people wear Made in America shirts, trying to find that, antagonizing other shoppers when they may be reaching for maple syrup that comes from Vermont. What are you doing? Take maple syrup that comes from Canada. It's not, we've been such close friends for so long. It's just a strange position to be in, to find that our closest neighbor to the north is suddenly feels more like not our enemy, but we don't feel like we're comfortable buddies any longer.
Yeah, what does it tell you about how radically Donald Trump has reoriented foreign policy, that Canada is the adversary and Russia is the friend? That's what's happened in the last 6 weeks, right? He said nicer things about Vladimir Putin than he has about Justin Trudeau, and he seems to be more willing to cater to Russia's national interests than to Canada's national interests. And you're right, it's mind-boggling in some ways, because since the War of 1812, anyway, we've had a pretty good relationship with Canada, pretty symbiotic in most things. Canada is the one that went to war with us time and time again, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in the Middle East. Canada and the United States jointly operate, the North American defense operations in terms of, preparing for possible nuclear attacks. I mean, Canada and the United States are so close that the border has been pretty much undefended for all these years because, of course, nobody really seemed to see a big difference between the two. Now, suddenly, to see them hostile towards us and us hostile toward them, really because of Donald Trump, it's something we never, I think, imagined.
No, certainly not. No. John Nichols, I want to play Elissa Slotkin from last night because she did seem to home in on a Democratic message, a singular Democratic message in this moment where everything is so chaotic. Here she is talking about what Donald Trump promised and what he has so far delivered.
Look, the president talked a big game on the economy, but it's always important to read the fine print. So, do his plans actually help Americans get ahead? Not even close. President Trump is trying to deliver an unprecedented giveaway to his billionaire friends. He's on the hunt to find trillions of dollars to pass along to the wealthiest in America. And to do that, he's going to make you pay in every part of your life. Grocery and home prices are going up, not down, and he hasn't laid out a credible plan to deal with either of those. His tariffs on allies like Canada will raise prices on energy, lumber, and cars, and start a trade war that will hurt manufacturing and farmers. Your premiums and prescriptions will cost more because the math on his proposals doesn't work without going after your health care.
This is Elissa Slotkin, brand new senator from Michigan, speaking from a place that both she won and Donald Trump won.
That's exactly right. And look, that's where sort of the sweet spot is for Democrats, right? One of the things that they know is that Donald Trump brings out voters. I mean, voters who want to vote for him. That shouldn't be denied. But that when he's not on the ballot, and he won't be on the ballot in the midterm elections, there's a portion of folks that don't show up. That's right there an opening for Democrats. And then you have the next opening, this notion that some portion of folks who voted for Donald Trump and who voted Republican in 2024 are going to be profoundly disappointed because they're not seeing that shift in the economy that they wanted. Remember, Donald Trump didn't promise that he would make the economy a little better. He promised during the campaign that he would make it dramatically better. Now, the moves he's making are dramatic. There's no question of that. These tariff initiatives are huge. But we're hearing from an awfully lot of folks in industrial settings who worry about, whether parts are going to show up, worry about whether they're going to have markets. A lot of farmers, and remember, Donald Trump did great in rural America. Hearing from an awfully lot of farmers, especially at this time of year. This is when you're buying seed or you've just finished buying seed and you're preparing to go out into those fields once winter is done. And having a period of deep uncertainty, not knowing how much to plant, where to do it, what to do, what to plant. I mean, that's the sort of thing that creates an opening for, the other party, for the Democrats to deliver a message. I think Slotkin started to do it there last night. But frankly, I think that after the incredibly long speech by Donald Trump, I'm not sure how many people heard that. Ultimately, for the Democrats, the key is to have a consistent message on tariffs and on the economy. If they do, we'll see the first measures of how effective that message is in some of the special elections that are coming up and ultimately in this year's off-year elections.
Yeah, and we'll see if those rural communities, those farmers, for instance, that voted for Donald Trump, stick by him. They did, and they have. Even though there was pain during the first administration, does that continue? John Nichols, Peter Baker, Ryan Nobles, gentlemen, thank you very much.